How bad is the audio? Pat, you smoke signals. Someone. They can hear your writing now. I hope you know that. Bootleg. Okay, Pat, can you speak so they can try to hear you, please?
Yes. No, I'm very happy to be here. There's a little bit of an echo, but I hope that they can hear me decently.
Okay, let's see. You guys can hear him okay? Is that bearable for you guys to handle like a 20-minute show or something? Next time will be better, I promise. But again, if we're going to have hiccups happen, I'd rather it be now and hopefully not later on into the season, even though that'll inevitably happen. So from there, now let's get into what transpired today that we saw as well. Because prior to the Mets game, Edwin Diaz was on the bump for the Amazons. He pitched a simulated inning in the backfields, faced off against Mets top prospect Jet Williams, which he struck out without problem, had a perfect inning. They were even playing Narco there to get Edwin hyped up as if he was in his normal closer situation, and he looked sharp. He's all locked in. He's ready to go for the season, so plenty to love there. Also, for those that didn't check out, I was on Bleacher Report earlier today. If you go to the Bleacher Report app and check out MLB News, I did discuss Scott Boras and the horrendous offseason he has had, breaking down his 4 key clients in JD Martinez, Blake Snell, who maybe will be a Yank, who knows, right? And then you also have other guys there, that being in Matt Chapman and Cody Bellinger, have already signed their contracts. Spoke a lot about Boras and how he's fumbled this offseason. Again, just go to MLB News and the BR app, scroll down a little bit, and you'll find my show and some clip segments that they turn into polls there. So appreciate you guys. But Foul Territory did also have a bunch of Mets today. Today was their Mets edition of their spring training coverage, so I highly implore you all to check that out at some point too. And now that's enough of that. Let's finally start talking about the game, and my apologies to everybody as well for the delay here. But Pat, we did see today. We did see the New York Metropolitans just leg out your New York Yankees. And I got to ask, before even I go into a lot of the key takeaways from the Mets point of view, because obviously that's what a lot of Mets fans are here for, what is your key takeaways from a Yanks fan point of view? Again, you lost a tight one today. The Yanks had a lineup that was not like the Mets, and you had some top prospects that showed out a little bit. So let's hear about it.
Yeah, no, for sure. My name is Patrick Hennessy, longtime viewer, first-time caller. I really enjoyed today's game. Spencer Jones was one guy who kind of bro, the echo in my hands really fucking up me.
Sorry.
Hold on. I'm gonna take my AirPod out, and I think that might help. Okay, so Spencer Jones, obviously was one guy who this spring and as a whole, really has just wowed me. I mean, coming into the spring, I think we already knew Spencer Jones was kind of the next top prospect for the Yankees. But I think he's only more so solidifying that role as the spring goes on. And not only just with his talent, I mean, you're looking at a left-handed Aaron Judge, but also just the presence that he brings on the field, bro. Like, if there was ever I think we talked about this on the last Bridging the Gap episode, too, what we were most looking forward to this spring. But if there was ever a guy who screamed a Yankee, it's Spencer freaking Jones. I guarantee that within the next 5 years, this dude will have an MVP underneath his belt.
Pat, I are you forgetting that this isn't Bridging the Gap podcast? You don't need to talk completely out your ass for the entire show. I hope you know that. Like,
how is that talking out of my ass?
You just called him the left-handed Aaron Judge.
Okay.
Even as a Yanks fan, I think that's an asinine comment.
Or now I think you're trolling.
No, I'm being so serious. I know how good Spencer Jones is, but how could you? If he did not have the size that Judge has, do you even do that?
Dude, what do you like? He's going to be an MVP candidate for years to come. How is like calling him and a left-handed Aaron Judge blasphemous? They're both 6'7". They're both beautiful. They're both New York Yankees, and they're both just that guy.
Okay, I think we've heard enough. I do agree that Spencer Jones is a very talented young prospect. When the Yanks first drafted him out of Vanderbilt, I was genuinely pissed because I saw the size, I saw the frame, and I saw the swing, and I was like, okay, yep, the Yanks have themselves another massive power hitter. I don't know about MVP talk. Again, that's very much along the lines of what a casual Yankee fan would say. But for my Mets fans out there, let's talk about a positive today that isn't from the Yanks, and it's from the Mets. That's Tyler McGill here, just for a brief second. As many of you saw from Tyler McGill's last outing, 3 scoreless innings, utilizing that new pitch, the American Sport, that Kodai Senga helped him work with so much. Now we see again today, 3 scoreless innings, 0 hits, 0 earned runs. 2 walks, 6 strikeouts for Tyler McGill this spring, who has just over 1 ERA so far in around, if I can do the math, 8 innings so far. Fantastic stuff from Tyler McGill, and it looks like he may have finally found himself a true put-out pitch. Again, we'll see what happens throughout the remainder of spring as continued competition for this rotation spot, but Tyler McGill continues to prove, at least early on, his worth, and hopefully, as long as this can continue, the Mets may have secured their rotation with him in that spot there with Kodai Senga out. And with the way that he's pitching, if this continues throughout spring, hopefully into the regular season, I mean, the Mets may have finally have a Tyler McGill who is the most polished that we have seen yet. Again, he's not going to be the most dominant starter out there. He's not going to give you the best fastball. He's not going to give you the best breaking stuff. But the swing and miss thus far on the American sport has looked great. It's been a little hard for Baseball Savant to track. They've been kind of labeling it more as a changeup when it's really not, because the RPMs are different and all these other factors in the horizontal and vertical movement, the break. But point is that Tyler McGill is looking very, very sharp so far this spring. He exemplified that again today, going from the American sport to the high fastball, 2 for some Ks. Yes, this was against a Yankees lineup that only had Anthony Volpe and like one other guy as a starter, so we do have to bear that in mind. I'm not going to be that hypocrite fan to be like, oh my God, drink up all the Tyler McGill juice right now. He's going to be our opening day star 100%. And then bam, his next start is terrible in spring. I'm like, oh, never mind. We don't need to talk about him. No, everyone should take with a grain of salt spring training production, but what you have to care about most, again, are these position battles and everything in between. And aside from Tyler McGill, what else did we see today? Well, we saw Brett Beatty be productive, which was awesome, but to go in kind of order with the innings, Pat, just to relay things for you too. In the first, we saw Anthony Volpe get on with a walk and a stolen base. Again, Volpe has great legs. I know how much you love Anthony Volpe, Patrick. I mean, we could go all day talking about Volpe. If you know, you know. It's a Pat's followers. McGill would go on to strike out 2 for a clean inning. In the second, Peraza would reach on a hit by pitch around the hands and steal a base, and then Tyler McGill would go on to strike out the side afterwards. So very dominant there stuff from Tyler McGill. In the bottom of the second, Pete Alonso would have a double and Brett Beatty with a walk. The Mets would not score there. And then as we get to the third, Volpe with a walk and then another strikeout for Tyler McGill, which would finalize his day with the 6 Ks. And the bottom of the third is where we would start to see action. Short gets a single. Zach Short was starting for the Mets in the infield. Both him and Ryland Bannon have looked tremendous defensively for the Mets so far this spring. Ryland really helped save the game-tying run for the Yanks there in the 9th. And if that doesn't happen, you know, the Yanks may very well have won this game. And then you're going to have Pat again being the driver in this conversation. Thankfully, we don't have that finally. It felt that way for most of the offseason, but at least that isn't the case here in this convo. But we saw there in the bottom of the third, Short gets on with a single. Brandon Nimmo gets on with a double, an opposite field double down the third baseline, which was so nice to see. Love seeing lefties swing for opposite field, especially for power the way that Nimmo has and will continue to. From there, we would see Starling Marte drive in the first run of the game on an RBI ground out. Francisco Lindor, who has had a slow spring thus far, rips one just shy of a bomb, goes there into the corner, not in the corner of the gap, rather, for an RBI double. Francisco Alvarez will reach on a walk. Brett Beatty with a roughly 108 mile per hour scorching RBI single to increase the Mets lead there. And then 2 more runners would score after on a passed ball. The Mets would take a 5-0 lead there in the third, but the Yanks would continue to rally as we went on later into the ball game. And the fourth, Drew Smith had himself a scoreless inning. And as we actually pan quickly to the pitching stats here for everyone watching the live show, you can see it yourself here. Again, actually, no, those are not the correct pitching stats. Let me see if I updated them or not. I did not. Never mind on the pitching stats. I always do that. You didn't see it, Pat, but every single time I do the show and I go back to the first slide, the intro for the show, the loud music, like the Meet the Mets theme pops up, so everyone gets freaked out by it. Didn't mean to do that. I apologize. Oh, sick, he says. That's funny. We would see there, again, a clean inning for Drew Smith. Then afterwards, later on in the ballgame, Phil Bickford got worked quite a bit. Phil Bickford coming from the Dodgers last year in a trade around the deadline, if not post-deadline, if he wasn't just a pickup. He allowed 3 runs on 4 hits. Again, it was Phil Bickford's first spring outing. He's not a guy that I think is going to have a heavy impact positively on the Mets this year to begin with, so take that as you will. Sean Reed Foley, however, SRF, who's been out for the past year or so with injury for the most part, had himself a masterful lane today, striking out the side in doing so, touching roughly 97 on the gun with the heater, worked the changeup and the slider really well too. I think the Mets may have themselves something in SRF this season as a multi-aim reliever when they need to call upon him. Not the sexiest name. I know a lot of fans don't love SRF and what he can provide for you, but is still a guy that can not only get you outs, but hopefully, again, be a guy that the Mets can utilize in various ways need be throughout the year. David Stern said heading into the offseason that how the season begins with the bullpen is going to be drastically different with how the season ends, and SRF is one of those many arms that finds himself into the mix. From there, not too much I think we need to harp on. Trace Thompson and Jose Iglesias got themselves singles later on in the game. We, of course, saw Spencer Jones rip one. He had himself a strong game for the Yanks. Pitching-wise for the Yanks today, they had some hiccups. I mean, were there any pitching outings in particular that stood out to you? I saw Dennis Santana, the former Met, pitch a scoreless against us today. Clay Holmes, of course, a big name in that bullpen, had a scoreless inning. Are there any guys this spring in particular, Pat, on the pitching front that you're keeping a closer eye on than maybe others?
Yeah, but if I say it, I feel like you're gonna like bully me.
I'm gonna bully you either way, so you might as well just say it.
All right, well, I'm gonna say it, and I'm gonna take my AirPod out while I say it, so you can't even say anything back. Garrett freaking Cole, bro. I know he gave up a little, what was it, a 2-run bomb to Mr. Vogelback the other day, and you were, Garrett Cole's wise. This is great to see.
It's the fact that Cole went on a cry about it. And you know that. That's ridiculous.
Okay, maybe if I'm not even gonna say it. Maybe if you would have taken a little bit faster running the bases, we wouldn't have had this problem.
I'm sorry that a roughly 300-pound man isn't sprinting in a spring training game, ripping one off of Garrett Cole.
He still pimped it.
If you don't know Daniel Vogelback, if you think
either way,
nonsense.
I have my eyes on greatness this spring. And I'm still happy with what we've seen from Garrett Cole so far. Carlos Rodon, still a little bit concerned, not going to lie. Nestor looking decent, is solid. But overall, I think as far as the Yankees go, like, not too surprisingly, the offense has stood a lot more out than the pitching has, right? And I think that's kind of expected. And, yeah, are we going to get into offense, or you want me to, like, bring up, like a bat that's kind of shocked me too?
Yeah, we can get into offense in a second because Cole, I mean, I'm not surprised that he's your answer. It just shows that there's nothing that's changed from the last time that we've talked about. I mean, I guess not why, but, when I think of, even if I was in your shoes as a Yanks fan and I'm looking at your configuration, I already know Garrett Cole is going to be Garrett Cole. Like, I know what to expect from him. So my personal excitement level, I think, would be more along the lines of, is Carlos Rodon actually Alek Manoah now, gaining torch in the backfields the other day? Or is he going to be productive for you? Like, the guys that were dealing with ailments last year, him and Nestor Cortez, like, if I'm in your shoes, personally, that is what I would be prioritizing as the fan.
That's fair. But also at the same time, like, no one else really, like, makes me feel the way Garrett Cole does. Like, okay, let's put it in perspective, right? Let's say the Mets still had Jacob deGrom, prime Jacob deGrom. It's like, bro, every spring you're going into that looking forward to watching greatness.
That's fair, especially because I knew that in Jake's final couple years, we were very limited in how much playing time we actually got with him, so it was a very heavy emphasis on watching every start I could. I can agree there then. Fair.
Appreciating greatness is always key.
Greatness. I don't know about that one. But what I do know is that offensively for the Mets, what was a standout again today was seeing Brett Baty being able to not only drive, but lift the ball a little bit. Pete Alonso, of course, had his double. Francisco Lindor, everyone. There was some solid production today in what has been an underwhelming offensive spring for the Mets, especially over their 3-game losing skid. They had a little to no life offensively whatsoever. But Pat, Juan Soto is the obvious pick because he's been having a tremendous start to spring. Exactly what you'd expect from a guy that's going to walk from the Yanks in just a matter of months to get an absolute bag elsewhere. I mean, why else would he be doing this hot, this locked in early? I mean, it's honestly a fair comment to say that Soto is very well could have his best season of his career or since he left the Nats because, in part, this is a massive walk year. So aside from Juan Soto, what other bats are you keeping a close eye on this spring? Because from a Mets fan perspective, there's a couple guys that I have in mind, but I'll reserve those for after I hear yours.
Yeah, so first of all, I feel like I was robbed of some Juan Soto love here. Other than Juan Soto, who's kind of making you feel good this spring? First of all, let's not ignore the fact that Soto's off to an absolutely absurd start. And me and Morty had a little off-camera conversation the other day about how absurd I think it is that he's so on this Juan Soto the Mets thing. Dude, let's revisit that maybe like 8 months from now, and we'll see where it is.
Okay.
Yeah, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, Soto being on the Yanks doesn't change the Mets' pursuit of Soto. I just want you to know, because there's a lot of Yanks fans. I tweeted over the past week or two, it blew up. I knew it was going to do a photo of Soto in a Yanks jersey that I've had for 2 years, mind you. And of course that blew up because Soto had just hit his first bomb with the Yanks and stuff like that. But I hope Yanks fans that are actually listening and paying attention know, us Mets fans that want Juan Soto, don't give a rat's ass that he's on the Yanks now. We've wanted him when he was on our rival in the Nationals. We hated him because he was so good and torching us. So, yeah, if you don't think the Mets have a great shot at pursuing Soto, I have a bridge to sell you. But, hey, maybe we'll talk more about that on Bridging the Gap podcast, won't we?
I like that. I love you, Wardy. Yeah, either way, Juan Soto's going to be a Yankee for life. But kind of, if we're looking outside of that and we're looking more in the weeds, as you like to do, Trent Grisham. Bro, Trent Grisham is a very sneaky pickup in that
hate him.
field. And also, we're looking at him as, like, the Yankees, fifth outfielder at this point, especially when Jason Dominguez is healthy. But I think the value that he'll provide to the Yankees in terms of left-handed bat, I think he obviously fits perfect in Yankee Stadium. I think he's Matt Carpenter 2.0. He is, like, just that magic to him. And also, obviously, the elite defense in center field. You know what you're going to get from him as far as that goes. So, yeah, very sneak-up pickup there. And then also Alex Verdugo as well. He's another guy where this spring I look at him. I'd love for him to be the Yankees' leadoff hitter. I know they're probably going in the direction of DJ to start opening day at least. But I would assume by the end of April, maybe early May, Alex Verdugo is your leadoff guy. I think it just makes too much sense.
Okay, I almost freaked out for a second because someone said you were muted in the chat, and I know I'm muted on the phone. So I was like, "Is there no? Have people not been hearing Pat?" That if they went the past like 15 minutes acting like you were talking when they didn't hear you the whole time, that honestly would have been like the best troll job imaginable against you. Maybe next time. Shout out Dave.
First time caller.
Shout out Dave Kaplitz for first chiming in. Great member. Shout out everyone watching live on a replay. If you guys have been enjoying this little spring, not pregame, but post-game recap, make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. Greatly appreciated. Make sure to check out Pat at Unhinged Patrick on YouTube and, of course, on Twitter. He does a fantastic job with being a troll, which is, of course, what he does best. And then you can check me out here on do you want people to know what you do, Pat?
I'm not a troll.
What are you?
I'm a content creator.
Yeah.
What do you mean, yeah? Yeah. I'm a content creator.
This same content creator texted me today to begin our conversation by saying, "Wardy, would you like to be canceled today?" Like, but okay. Like what?
Never said that.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I'm not going to bother showing the receipts though, because you have receipts that you don't need to show. So it's like, we'll leave it at that. That's fine. But before we kind of get on to wrapping things up about this conversation and taking whatever questions you, the viewers, have, I do have to let you all know briefly about our amazing sponsor here on the channel, and one that I'm going to just talk by myself with here, and that is our great friends at BetUS. For those that don't know BetUS is America's #1 sports book. You guys see the link already in the live chat. People on replay, it'll be in the description too. Make sure to check them out for all your sports betting needs. Whether that's NHL in season action, NBA in season action, like I'm about to show you, I'm going to place a bet on one of tonight's games here. And of course, I'm going to favor biasly my New York Knickerbockers, regardless on Jalen Brunson's health status. Why? Because I'm biased and I'm going to do it regardless. I have confidence in my team, at least to a certain degree. But what I do want to talk to you about, guys, is they're not only safe, secure, and reliable, but they're coming at you with a fantastic offer right now that many of you have already gone in on by depositing. That way you get a 125% boost with not your first deposit, not your second deposit, but your first 3 deposits. That means if you deposit $100, you automatically have $225 to work with. Times that by 3. It is that simple. And again, shout out as always to BetUS for being an amazing sponsor here on the channel. But now let's get into the slates here briefly, guys. You see the games down below. Here at 740, we got the New York Knicks against the Atlanta Hawks. Knicks are the money line favorite at -145. I'm absolutely hammering that. I mean, there literally isn't any second nature, but I'm doing it right away. We're hammering the money line. We're gonna put 50 in here today on the money line to win roughly 35. Place my bet. There you go. How you doing? And confirm. For my Knicks fans out there, let me know what your confidence level is in the game. And also, if you guys don't care about NBA, NHL, if you just care about the Mets or just care about baseball, don't worry. We're going to be doing a lot of awesome, unique WardyNYM parlays throughout the regular season that we'll be showcasing and breaking down our post-game shows together. So there you go. Shout out, as always, to BetUS for being an amazing sponsor on the channel. And let's see what happens with the New York Knicks later tonight. But now, Pat, getting back into this one, I do see a donation. It says Mets and Yankees rivalry hatred. That's what it's all about. Absolutely. That goes directly in hand with why we started our own show, Pat. So, Pat, I got to ask you, heading into this season as well, I mean, is there a little bit of a different vibe with your viewpoint on kind of the Mets and the Subway Series rivalry, knowing that we have this thing going on versus kind of years past where we did like 1 or 2 shows, like a watch party? Like, there's some added incentive to either really hate the opposing team or at least make sure you're chiming in the right times that it's time to chime in when things are going wrong in either Mets land or, for me, when things are going wrong in Yanks land.
Yeah, I would say one thing. I've definitely been paying more attention to the Mets than I have as usual. And I think also that's because, like, Twitter is basically a For You page now.
Right.
Since I interact with your tweets, like, I have all this Mets shit popping up on my timeline. But I wouldn't say I hate the Mets. I think I would have more hatred towards the Mets this year, if they seem like a threat. And, like, no offense, but nothing about the Mets this year kind of, like, jumps off the bat of being like, oh, like, they have potential to be better than the Yankees. And I think that's the only time I feel myself developing hatred or developing jealousy towards the Mets and their fan base is when I feel like they're a threat to overtaking the Yankees, and it just doesn't feel like that this year at all.
Right. And it has felt like that the past couple years, at least the off-season build-up. Because we've had the text. You've literally have texted me like distraught, like the Mets have taken over New York. Because, I mean, off-season wise, they have the past couple years. They just haven't done it when it's mattered most. And that's been the difference between these two organizations at the end of the day. Even with the Yanks having their struggles, you guys still at least have the reputation, you have the background, and you have the consistent success. We don't have that yet, so it's exciting to hopefully see that start to turn beginning this year, where both these teams can thrive in New York, which is only going to make the rivalry 10 times better. I mean, I really do not know what it's like for both these teams to be playing at a high level, like where they're both pushing hard for playoffs and they're both in a great spot to succeed. I mean, I was born in 2000. Your Yanks beat my Mets that time. It didn't faze me then because, I mean, that wasn't really even a thought. I mean, I was just here, not even just here. So, yeah, I mean, any further thoughts you want to say on the rivalry?
Imagine, like, handling a Subway World Series at this age.
With today's media, like with it, do you know how insane it would be if the Mets and the Yanks match up at any point in the near future in the dance? Like,
no,
it would take over the sport for sure. There's no denying.
No, I think it would take over the sports world. I don't even think it would just take over. Like, bro, the entire country would be locked in on that. It would be the highest viewed World Series of all time.
It probably would be. Yeah, I agree with that. Just from the big market aspect, it's literally all of New York, and then anywhere else that there are Yanks and Mets fans.
However, bro, like someone like wait, hold on. Someone like you who loves the sport of baseball, right?
Right.
And in a year where the Mets most likely aren't going to be making the World Series, let's just be honest, would you find yourself ever rooting for a Yankees-Dodgers World Series just for the sake of what it would mean to the sport of baseball and how, I mean, that would break all kinds of numbers and just put baseball maybe back at number one for a very brief period.
My biggest gripe with the idea of the Dodgers and the Yanks being in the dance, and why I truly would have a really difficult job supporting it, is because, one, while it would bring more exposure to the game because the MLB would put these big markets on a huge pedestal, it would also mean that a lot of this new exposure would create new fans for these respective teams. Yanks fans are the most bandwagon team out of any team, and not only baseball, but you can argue in major sports. The Dodgers are going to continue to be on that trend, especially with all the big spending and the moves that they've done. So that's where I'm turned off. It's not about necessarily, I'm for growing the game. I'm turned off by having to deal with even more schmuck Yanks and more schmuck Dodgers fans, especially on social media. Like, it'll be toxic as all hell, and I want nothing to do with it. So that's my concern with it, aside from just not wanting either to win, obviously. Like, if the Dodgers and the Yanks match up in the World Series, I'm just going to be like, all right, like, that I'm not.
It would be a total shift from last year's World Series, though.
Oh, for sure. But the issue, though, is that it also would have a potential negative impact on teams' ways of thinking, especially in the Dodgers. Because if the Dodgers go out and win the whole thing this year, then it's like further validating, spend a shit ton of money on the right guys, and it's worthwhile. Because there is reason to believe that and understand that. But a lot of teams take that philosophy to heart and don't factor in all the other factors of what it means to be a structured organization like the Dodgers have been, like the Yankees have been. That's why us Mets fans have seen it right before our eyes. Having money does not equate success. Buying guys does not equate success. There's so many other little idiosyncrasies and factors that go into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, agreed.
Yeah. So I think the final thing to wrap up about the show before we get out of here is, again, final takeaways for those that did not get a chance to watch the game, or if you didn't, if you're still watching live show, again, continue smashing that like and subscribe one. Greatly appreciate. We're coming at you with post-game coverage all spring and season long. Per usual here in WardyNYM, your number one stop for all things Mets. Borna in the chat says hurry up. That means we have to hurry up. But before I do that, a big take.
Can I make one more point?
Yeah, go ahead.
Who the hell let you steal my hat?
Okay, so let's go there. So for people that are unaware, I've had this hat for at least 2 years now, and I decided like a week and a half ago, you know what, Tyler, I should start to mix up my hat rotation. So naturally, I took it out, and Pat, for whatever reason, just decided to be the biggest copycat imaginable. Like, I get it that the Yanks are known for the dark black/navy blue look. I'm wearing a black hat. I'm Pat. I think yours is black too. Again, you copied me, so that's why I'm trying to figure this out still. But I mean, you can tell your story, but that's all that needs to be known.
I've had this hat for gotta be like 3 years now. So who wins?
I mean, considering I've shown it on camera before you.
That's just not true.
Okay.
You have proof?
I mean, you can find it.
Okay. I'll look.
Okay. Take your time. Take your time. Okay. But in all seriousness, I do have a rotation of hats that I have acquired that I will be rotating throughout the regular season for many of you amazing Mets fans. And yes, and I've been blunt, and I'll stop the bullshit, obviously. As much as I despise the New York Yankees, there's one thing that I've always admired, truthfully. I love modern, clean, slick looks. I've always been a fan of the dark navy blue, basically black look. I know that it's not poppy, and I love the Mets colors too. But having said that, I've always loved wearing, especially black and white, those kind of tones, if you will. So especially to find Mets related in that sense, I'm 100% going to wear it every day of the week. I don't know what to help you with. That's the thing. What do you want help with? I mean, aside from the fact that you're a Yanks fan living in Queens, which means you need a lot of help, I don't know what else to help you with. I really don't. Okay. All right. Well, with that being said, guys, I think that's going to do it for the show. I know that this one was all over the place. Apologies. Again, of course, audio had to be an issue to start things out. Also, it's spring training too, so we're not going to have the most perfect format or structure while we're doing these breakdowns. We're just sharing our general thoughts, key takeaways from these games. Obviously, you Mets fans know that I go a little bit more in depth when it's just me riding solo. So for the next post-game show that we do, it'll be more along those lines versus what you're seeing here. But it's always an exception when we have my man Pat in here. Patrick, please let everyone know where they can find you. And of course, don't forget to let everyone know about the pod.
Yeah. Bridging the Gap. We're going live every Thursday on this beautiful channel. And yeah, you can follow me on Twitter @OnInchPatrick, YouTube @OnInchPatrick. And yeah, Wardy, I love you.
I love you too, Pat. It can be difficult, but I love you too. And I also love everyone that's watching this, even if you call me a schmuck, if you call Pat a schmuck, if you hate Pat, if you hate me, I don't care. We love you guys to death. We're having so much fun doing all different types of coverage for you all. And like I said, we have a lot more post games coming, so be on the lookout. A big announcement's coming too later this week with some awesome fellow creators, so be on the lookout for that. Big week, huge weekend, and next week coming up, guys. Lots going to happen. A boatload of content. Lock in, and I'll see you there. That's Patrick Hennessy. This is Tyler